Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today, we're going to dive into a heartfelt story about Alex, a successful CEO, and Tu Na, a strong and graceful woman caught between love and independence. Their paths cross in unexpected ways, leading them to face choices that could change their lives forever. Will love be enough to bring them together, or will the desire for freedom pull them apart? If you enjoy stories filled with emotion, drama, and unexpected twists, then you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. Alex stood by the window, his tall frame silhouetted against the fading orange of sunset. The city outside hummed with its usual rhythm, but inside his room, everything felt painfully still. The only sound was the faint rustling of leaves outside the glass. Behind him, Tu Na lay on the bed. Her face was pale, her expression torn between exhaustion and lingering pain. Alex could see the silent battle she was fighting, one he couldn't take from her, no matter how much he wanted to. Finally, he walked over. His steps were soft, almost hesitant, as though he didn't want to disturb the fragile peace. Without a word, he reached out and pressed his hand gently against her forehead. That single touch carried everything he couldn't say out loud. "Does it still hurt?" His voice was low, barely above a whisper, as his eyes searched hers for the answer. Tuna's gaze fluttered toward him. A faint smile tugged at her lips, though he could still see the pain hiding beneath it. "It's better now," she murmured. "Just a little more time." Her words tried to reassure him, but Alex could see deeper. This wasn't only physical pain. It was the weight of all the years she had carried alone. She didn't need him to fix everything. She just needed him to stay. "Is there anything you need?" he asked softly, his concern leaking into every syllable. But Tu Na shook her head gently. No words were necessary. His presence was enough. Their eyes locked, and for the first time in a long time, Alex felt that maybe, just maybe, he was exactly where he was meant to be. The quiet of evening settled around them. Alex sat by the edge of the bed, his gaze lingering on Tu Na's tired face. There was something heavy in the silence, something unspoken hanging between them. Then, slowly, Tu Na's trembling hands lifted a folded letter from her lap. Alex noticed the way she clutched it, the weight of its meaning pressing down on her. "Alex." Her voice cracked, soft but firm. "The time has come. I need to leave." He froze, though he had sensed it, the distance in her eyes, the hesitation in her smile. He hadn't wanted to face it. "I need a new start," she continued. "A job. A place where I can stand on my own 2 feet. His heart clenched at her words, and when he finally spoke, his voice was raw. "But why? Why do you have to go?" Tu Na lowered her head, her breath shaky. "Because I can't keep depending on you. You've done so much for me already. I can't stay here, relying on your kindness forever." Her honesty cut through him like a knife. Alex wanted to beg her to stay, to promise that things would be different. But deep down, he knew she was right. She needed this, for herself, for her dignity, for her freedom. He reached for her hand, holding it gently. "If that's what you need, then go. But promise me one thing." She looked up, her eyes glistening. "Don't forget that I'll always be here," Alex whispered. no matter where you go." Her tears spilled, and she nodded silently. With one last squeeze of his hand, she stood, gathering her things. Alex watched her walk away, his chest aching with the ache of love and the sting of letting go. Morning came cold and sharp, as if the world itself reflected Alex's restless thoughts. He sat at his desk, staring at paperwork he couldn't focus on. No matter how he tried, his mind drifted back to her. Her laugh, her strength, the way her presence had softened his hardest days. She was gone. Not forever, maybe, but enough to leave him hollow. His phone sat within reach, her name glowing on the screen. His fingers hovered over the call button, aching to hear her voice. But he stopped himself. She needed space. She needed time. He had to respect that. Still, he couldn't stop caring, couldn't stop loving her. A knock at his office door snapped him back. His assistant stood there, reminding him of the next meeting. Alex nodded absently, but the thoughts lingered like shadows. It wasn't just longing anymore. It was love. Undeniable, unshakable love. And he had finally admitted it to himself. The question was, would Tu Na ever admit it too? Hours later, as the sun set once again, Alex made his decision. He couldn't let her slip away without telling her the truth. He had kept his feelings locked inside for too long. Tonight, that would change. He gripped the steering wheel tightly as he drove toward Tu Na's small farm. His chest burned with a mix of fear and determination. What if she had already closed the door? What if he was too late? When he arrived, the night was eerily quiet. He stepped out of the car, his breath shallow, and walked to the front door. For a moment, his hand hovered, trembling over the wood before he finally knocked. The door creaked open. Tu Na stood there, surprise flashing in her eyes. The silence between them was heavy, years of unspoken feelings condensed into this single moment. Finally, Alex spoke. His voice was steady, but every word came from the deepest part of his heart. Tu Na, I've been thinking about you all day, about us. I can't let you walk away without knowing the truth. I love you. Her eyes widened, shock rippling across her face. For one terrifying second, Alex feared he had ruined everything. But then, slowly, her lips curved into the faintest smile. I've been thinking about you too, Alex. I didn't want to leave. I thought I had to. Relief surged through him. He stepped closer, his heart pounding. You don't have to anymore. Let me be there for you. Let's face everything together. For a long moment, silence filled the air. Then with tears glimmering in her eyes, Tu Na whispered, "Okay, Alex, I'll stay, but only if you promise me one thing. Anything." His voice was fierce with hope. She smiled, her words warm and steady. "Promise me we'll build a future together, not just as a way to fix the past, but because we both truly want it." Alex took her hand, his own trembling with emotion. "I promise." And in that moment, everything shifted. The pain, the distance, the uncertainty, it all faded into the background. What mattered now was the promise of a shared tomorrow. The first rays of dawn crept across the horizon, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and gold. Alex and Tu Na sat together on a wooden bench in her small garden, their shoulders brushing lightly. The air smelled of dew and earth, the kind of scent that made everything feel fresh, new, possible. Alex turned to her, studying the quiet peace in her expression. She wasn't the same woman who had carried every burden alone, who had tried to hide her pain behind silence. Something in her eyes had changed, calm, steady, as if she had finally allowed herself to lean on someone else. "I used to believe I had to do everything on my own," Tu Na said softly, her gaze on the blooming flowers. "But when you told me you loved me, it made me realize that maybe I don't have to. Maybe I can share this journey with someone after all." Alex reached out, gently wrapping his hand around hers. His voice was tender, but certain. "You don't have to face anything alone anymore, Tu Na. Not as long as I'm here." Her eyes lifted to meet his, and for a fleeting moment, the world seemed to pause. In that look, she didn't just see Alex. She saw the life they could build together. The laughter, the hardships, the small, quiet moments like this one. "What if we create something beautiful together?" she asked, her tone filled with both hope and hesitation. Alex smiled, his heart full. "I think we already are." The warmth between them wasn't just from the morning sun. It was the quiet fire of love, of understanding, of two souls finally daring to believe in a shared future. Weeks slipped by in a rhythm neither of them had expected. Days were filled with work, laughter, and simple routines. Evenings were quieter, often spent in the garden, talking about dreams and memories. The tension that once weighed heavily between them had lifted, replaced by a steady, grounded love. Yet inside Alex's heart, a question lingered. What if this wasn't just temporary? What if this love was meant to last forever? He knew it was time to give her more than words, more than promises spoken under starlight. He wanted to give her something lasting, a vow they could both hold on to, no matter what storms came. So he planned, quietly, carefully. Every detail mattered, because this wasn't just about asking a question. It was about creating a moment that would mark the beginning of the rest of their lives. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky glowed gold, Alex stood at the edge of the garden where they had shared countless memories. Tu Na was there, kneeling in the soil, her hands gently tending to the flowers she loved. She looked calm, content, completely at home in her world. Alex's heart swelled as he watched her. This was the woman who had changed him, the one who had shown him what strength looked like, what love felt like. And he couldn't wait another day. He stepped closer, reaching out to take her hand. She glanced up, curiosity softening her features. "Alex, what is it?" Her voice carried that same quiet strength, the same strength that had drawn him in from the very beginning. He dropped to one knee, his heart pounding. For a moment, the world around them seemed to hold its breath. With trembling fingers, he pulled a small velvet box from his pocket and opened it. Inside sat a simple, elegant ring, a symbol of every promise, every dream they had shared. "Tu Na," Alex said, his voice thick with emotion, "I don't just want to spend my life with you. I want to promise you that we'll face everything together. Every challenge, every joy, every tomorrow. Will you marry me?" For a moment, Tu Na froze. Her eyes widened, her lips parted as if words had deserted her. Alex saw the storm of emotions flicker across her face. Surprise, disbelief, hope, and something deeper. Then slowly, tears filled her eyes. She nodded, her voice catching in her throat. Yes, Alex. Yes, I'll marry you. Relief and joy crashed over him in one powerful wave. He slipped the ring onto her finger, then stood, pulling her into his arms. Their lips met in a kiss that sealed more than just a promise. It sealed a future. The world didn't change around them. The flowers still swayed. The sun still sank. But for Alex and Tu Na, everything was different now. The next morning, Alex woke before the sun. But instead of his usual restlessness, there was a new calm inside him. A quiet joy, as steady as the heartbeat in his chest. Beside him, Tu Na slept peacefully. Her features, usually so guarded, were relaxed, softened by the contentment of someone who finally felt safe. He watched her for a long moment, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. She stirred, eyes blinking open slowly. When her gaze met his, something unspoken passed between them. An understanding, a vow, without a single word. "Good morning," she whispered, her voice still husky from sleep. "Good morning," Alex replied, unable to hide his smile. His chest felt full, overflowing with everything he couldn't put into words. "I've been thinking," he said quietly. "About us, about everything. I can't wait for this new chapter, Tu Na. I want to build something beautiful with you, every single day." Her lips curved into a soft smile. She sat up, brushing the sleep from her eyes, then found his hand and intertwined their fingers. "Me too," she whispered. "It feels like everything we've been through, all the struggles, all the pain, it's led us here. And now, I finally feel like we're exactly where we're meant to be." Alex squeezed her hand, and in that touch, he felt the truth of her words. Their love was no longer fragile, no longer uncertain. It was real. It was strong. It was theirs. They sat together in silence, watching the world outside wake with the sunrise. And Alex realized something important. Life would never be perfect. There would always be challenges. But with Tu Na beside him, he was ready for all of it. Days turned into weeks, and their lives blended into something steady, something true. Every laugh, every quiet evening, every shared meal added to the foundation they were building. It wasn't always easy. They argued, they stumbled, but they learned, together. And with every step, their bond grew deeper, stronger. One evening, as they watched the sky fade into twilight, Alex turned to Tu Na with a smile. "Do you ever wonder," he asked, "if love really can conquer everything?" She leaned against him, her voice steady but soft. "I don't know about conquering, but I do know love helps us endure. It gives us strength when everything else feels like it's falling apart." Alex pressed a kiss to her hair, his chest tightening with gratitude. He had searched for success, for achievement, for recognition. But what he had found in Tu Na was something he had never expected, something he would never trade for anything. A love that wasn't about perfection, but about persistence, about showing up, about choosing each other day after day. And as the days turned into months, one truth became clear. This wasn't just a story of two people finding love. It was a story of trust, of healing, of courage. A story of building something beautiful out of broken pieces. And it was only just beginning. Alex, a successful CEO, seems to have everything except the love he craves. Tu Na, a strong and independent woman, carries the burden of her past and struggles between accepting help and preserving her freedom. When Tu Na decides to leave in search of independence, Alex is torn but respects her choice. However, his heart does not give up, and one night he finally confesses his love. It is a relief when Tu Na admits that she feels the same way. Together, they promise to build a future not out of fear of the past, but with hope for what is to come. Weeks later, their love deepens as they face life together. In a heartfelt proposal, Alex asks Tu Na to marry him, and she says yes, starting a new chapter filled with faith, courage, and the promise of forever.